glory days at the stick. From who's got it better than us to brick by brick. It's always the 49ers way, from off-season to game day. Yeah, we talk back. It's the 49ers Cutback.
It's 49ers Cutback Podcast time. A little bit of a change there. But yeah, it's time to get deep into this, a little bit deeper into the game. We had a reaction last night. Now we've had a time to kind of, settle, maybe look at a little bit more film, and now it's time to get into this and really talk all the X's and O's and everything about this game. There's a lot of stuff to go over. Plus, there's also some awards to hand out to some outstanding players and some guys who made big plays.
We don't have game matchups to review. We don't have all that fun stuff to do. We don't even have necessarily like top performances or matchup stuff to go like back and forth on. But what we do have is some straight beasts to talk about, right? Some block is hot defensive players in the game. And who knows, Ant, maybe the first ever preseason edition of the Hurt Business in which we add in some members, newest members to the Hurt Business for the 49ers. There's a lot of great stuff to get into. Recap show is going. It's live. Welcome, TCC. Really excited to get on with this. Make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. And that notification bell, because we got a lot of great content coming out. Some incredible stuff coming tomorrow. You're not going to want to miss any of that. And then a lot of coverage just this upcoming week of games and things of that nature that we got coming on this joint practice week with the Chargers and this game leading into week 2. Going to be really exciting.
Yeah, the storylines that are coming up this week are going to be great. There's going to be a lot of fun stuff to get into. We're going to see more players dress, against the Chargers until eventually we build to the Raiders game where everyone should be in uniform and play about a half of, the half of the game for the starters, really getting into it. But in this game, we didn't get to see a lot of starters. What we got to see was a lot of the depth. We got to see a lot of players that you won't normally see. You got to see how John and Kyle have built this roster and where areas that they still need to improve, which they're trying to do, but also areas where we have bright spots of young players that we know we can count on during the season, guys that we've seen make huge jumps from the time we first saw them in training camp until this game right here. The coaching is good. We're seeing guys develop, and these players are putting in that effort to develop. So those are things that we get to go over today and really get into what we can expect from these guys moving forward through the preseason. And eventually, when we get into the regular season, this is all pushing towards that moment when they line up and kick off against Detroit.
Agreed. There's going to be a lot of fun things to do and a lot of things building up and definitely storylines taking place. And we're definitely going to have maybe not arguments over storylines, but there's definitely going to be some conflicting reports and conflicting opinions on storylines and what is a storyline and what isn't. So make sure you're tuned in here because we're going to give you some accurate descriptions of what's actually happening with this team and with player development and what's going on with those players. And so I'm excited. I'm excited for all the stuff to break down and to talk about this game. And let's just start with, obviously, the thing that everyone wants to talk about. And we've had some time, right? We got to watch a little bit more of the film, got to look at some of the stuff. Trey Lance, the positives and the negatives. The positives are obvious, right? The arm strength, the way he's able to fit some balls into space. The ability to extend plays at times and keep things alive is great. And then the intelligence, the IQ is on display. He talked about a little bit in his presser that 80-yard tutty to Trent Sherfield and how that was his primary read. We saw a lot of people on Twitter talking about how he passed up on Ayuk to go across the field to Sherfield. And I had thought, and you had thought, and based on just the day 13 practice in which we saw them execute this play, that it always felt like Sherfield was the kind of go-to option on that. He's looking for something specific with the coverage and the safeties over the top, and if he sees it, he can go to it. And if he doesn't see it, then he can always come across to his underneath route, which is what he talked about in his press conference. He made the correct read. Sherfield gets pressed at the line of scrimmage, isn't as deep like Lance had talked about and Sherfield both talked about. Got some press coverage at the start, so he wasn't as deep into his route as he normally would be, but Trey was patient. He saw what he needed to see from the safety, didn't come off of the read, let Sherfield get his depth, get into his route, and then was able to complete the pass. And you got to tip your hat to the offensive line in that scenario and Kyle Shanahan for scheming up a great design, great way to protect him and give him the time to let the play develop, and the patience from the rookie not to bail on it and just go to Ayuk who was open underneath. I like those types of things.
Yeah, they put a lot of clarity in this, and transparency when they were talking about it. Kyle Shanahan Jimmy Garoppolo even, and then Trey Lance all talking about this play. Kyle Shanahan bringing up the fact they ran this play in 2019, but that they overthrew Jordan Matthews, who was actually running this route against Kansas City. So they knew that they could scheme this up and they would work against them. And then, Trey Lance, Jimmy Garoppolo said Trey Lance, made the right read on this one. So 100% he did what he was supposed to do. It has a lot of similarities to George Kittle against the Packers where he broke back across. Of course, it's a different person running it and a different setup, right? He started in a different place. But this is something that Kyle often does, flood a zone and then somebody break back against it the other way deep. And then you can find that guy in one-on-one situations. It actually wasn't one-on-one situation. There was two guys there, but Sherfield did a good job of getting his route reestablished and getting to the top point where he needed to be. And then Trey Lance with an absolute wonderful football, right in stride, hit him, and it was a great play. And those are the things we saw during training camp. Those are the things that we thought were so clear. Sherfield talked about them running this play all through camp. We saw it, multiple times as well. But this is what we saw from Trey Lance consistently. The long ball is what gets everyone going, right? That's what's gotten all the media people going. All the fans that were there were oohing and awing all the time he threw a deep ball. It was the consistency with everything else was still the question with Trey Lance. We saw some of those consistency issues still in this game, but I thought that he had a great showing for a rookie. If I wasn't judging him off the media monster that has been created, we would have been very excited about a rookie quarterback coming in there and doing this. So I'm going to stay excited. I'm just not going to get overblown into where everyone else is going with this because they want to turn this guy into like a Superman right away. And it's like, dude, let this guy develop. Let this guy cook. He's going to be fine. There are lots of great traits that he displayed last night that we can get excited about for years to come. But let's let him grow because there's still areas he needs to improve.
Correct. And one of those areas is the over-the-middle just ball placement because sometimes his ball placement is high and he can get his receivers into trouble in that way and not protect guys. And one of his first misses was that. It was a high throw over the middle. And it didn't look great. I didn't like seeing it. And it's one of those things where, Saturday when we went there for the in-person at Levi's, he had a big completion to Sanu over the middle and everyone was oohing and on and he had to put the ball in that spot. And it's like, not really. He could have put the ball in front of Sanu, chest to waist high, and Sanu could have caught it and ran without having to go up and make a spectacular catch around two people. I like the fact that Sanu went up and made the catch. I even like the fact that Trey Lance was able to fit the ball in there with such speed and accuracy and put it over the top of a linebacker. That was great. But he also could have led in front of Sanu, put the ball away from the linebacker. But here's the thing, right? We saw that type of throw and I had concerns. And then you see the throw to Charlie Warner in which he puts the ball around a lineman in space and in the window and leads Charlie Warner out towards the sideline away from defenders. So it's not that Trey can't do it. He can. It's consistency. It's being comfortable enough maneuvering in the pocket, being comfortable enough with your receivers and the defense and what you're seeing to be able to put the ball in those open areas and know when do I need to try to funnel this through tight windows and when can I lead a guy a little bit more and give him some room, and then working on ball placement, getting that ball down sometimes, especially across the middle of the field. That ball starts getting up in space. Your receivers can go up and make great catches all they want. That's fine. However, if your receivers start taking shots and they're having to step off the field because of that as well, now you're in trouble because you're having to work. You're going to have guys stepping off the field or worse, getting themselves hurt and not having them for longer periods of time. That's okay, though. Trey's young. He's learning. He's going to be learning. It's going to take some time. Again, positives with Trey, some negatives with Trey, and Shanahan talked about this. He saw some things that he liked. He saw some things that he didn't like. He saw times where Trey made the right read and got the ball to the right spot, and times where Trey missed some guys or held onto the ball too long or, ended up making a nice pass, but I thought he had two or three other guys that were open in certain areas that he could have put the ball into instead. And it's about getting those situations on film so he can look at them and go, okay, this may have been a completion here. However, I also could have gotten the ball out 3 or 4 seconds earlier and ended up with a similar play and maybe not taking a shot.
I don't think anyone that was on that field yesterday, any of that coaching staff, was surprised about the performance of Trey Lance.
Nope.
This is pretty much what you've gotten out of training camp. You know what I mean? And this guy is going to grow, and he's going to have better games coming up. The preseason, he's only going to get better because this guy learns from every single situation. He really is a student of the game. He puts himself in it. He gets it done. I'm very happy with him and his development, and I think he's only going to show out even more. They talked about the fact that he had some, helmet mic issues and the fact he had to ask Kyle, hey, can you repeat that play? So there is still some of that going on. It's a different aspect and a different situation. And that crowd wasn't even as crazy as, some of the crowds are going to be.
Good luck in Seattle, kid. Good luck in Seattle.
100%. But I think overall it was a good performance. It was a nice performance, and there was a lot of nice performances around there. But Trey, I thought, had a good performance. It was one of the better ones of the rookies that I saw. There was some good ones from rookie quarterbacks all around the league, and Trey Lance showed his ability, and he's only going to develop more and get better. So excited to see what he does this week against the Chargers.
Very excited. I'm very excited for the joint practices as well.
Oh, 100%.
And as we get closer and closer to the regular season, right, Ant, we're going to see more of the Shanahan plan coming into effect in this 2-quarterback system and getting situations where you have Jimmy getting the team into certain positions, third and shorts and things of that nature, or even, drives where maybe first down, you get a penalty or something like that. First down penalty, you get pushed back 10, first down and 20 now, you get a run play that gets stuffed, and now it's second and long, and maybe you bring Trey Lance out there because you're trying to give a certain look on the deep ball. They bring out their nickel package. The Niners run out 4 wide receivers, and then you run some sort of read option look, pick up 10, and then Jimmy comes back in on third down in a third manageable because maybe you don't want to put Trey in those situations at certain points of the year. I'm really excited for that aspect of this team moving forward, moving into the Shanahan plan and seeing it actually being executed with both of these guys and utilizing them in different situations. It's going to take time, but this week now against the Chargers, we're going to get a little bit more insight because the playbook's going to open up a little bit more, do a little bit more prep work, and they're going to start putting in some basic things that they want to start seeing against the Lions.
What was really nice was seeing different situations, backed up on the 1-yard line, getting in, different type of things for him. 2-minute drill, where he was able to go out and execute. And we saw him do the 2-minute drill at training camp, and he's usually very good. It just it will stall out eventually. Not too many times where him or Jimmy really are able to get into the end zone on 2-minute drill. But I thought that was nice to see him get that opportunity in this game. The throws that he was making, in those situations, he's cooler than a cucumber back there. I mean, he really is. I mean, the guy has no fear. He's not afraid. He lives in that pocket, and it's nice. But there are other guys on this team we need to talk about too. I don't want to stay completely on the quarterback
the
watch
whole time.
No, because I think that there are other players that we definitely need to talk about. And there were guys who had great showings all across the board. And then there was also some negativity flying around about certain players that I think we need to kind of make sure that everyone kind of just relaxes a little bit, because we don't need to be throwing darts at the, like Daniel Brunskill, for instance. Daniel Brunskill played well. He did not deserve that. He got beat one time by Chris Jones, one of the best players in the NFL at defensive line, and he had Sermon underneath him, and he kind of fell over him. Even Kyle Shanahan admitted that happened. So, I mean, we got to make sure that we understand, guess what, guys? Offensive linemen are going to get beat. What they're trying to do is limit how many times, because every single time they get beat is completely spotlighted, and people take a look at it and overanalyze it way too much. But Daniel Brunskill is still going to have this spot secure. There is a reason that in the second half he was standing there without pads on, without a jersey on, because he's a bona fide starter. So that starting 5 is secure. I think people just need to go ahead and get used to it.
I think they need to too as well, and to piggyback off of that, another guy that was getting some flack for his performance that I did not understand why, and after going back and watching some of the film and watching the game, the condensed version, I can tell you what, right now, Jalen Moore had himself one heck of a game for having to run in there with that first unit and going up against the Chiefs' second unit, which again, folks, yes, it's the Chiefs' second unit, but Taco Charlton is a guy that the Chiefs have relied on, and he was going up against him a whole heck of a lot in that second unit. Taco Charlton is their 5th man of that D line. He's the guy that rotates in and gets a lot of snaps for that team and has played a lot of snaps for the Kansas City Chiefs. Jalen Moore held his own. He had a few times where he got beat, but overall, for a rookie that everyone, like most 49er fans, including ourselves, thought this guy was going to come in and be a guard for this team. The fact that he went out there at left tackle and performed the way he did, I was impressed.
Yeah, it's once again week 1 of the preseason. Mm-hmm. You want mistakes. I mean, I don't know how clear I can be as far as a coach's perspective. You want mistakes out there so that way you can fix them. If you get perfect games and perfect performances, then you just have to go with, do that again. Where at least when you make mistakes, you can fix those things and work on them, because it's bound to happen. People are going to make mistakes. The one play that's the most evident of him getting beat is the great get off by the defensive end. He gets off the ball, and he's having to kind of get off. You know what that is? That's a cadence issue, because there's no way these guys should be able to get that snap count down that good.
It was literally it was perfect. He was literally moving as the ball was moving.
Yeah,
the D end.
100%. He got off. So that means maybe I hate to put it on, but that's on Trey Lance because he needs to get that cadence different. They need to be able to change it, and that's also on the rest of the 49ers team because they did have cadence issues where they were jumping off sides during practice. That is something they've been working on. It is a different element hearing a cadence from a different quarterback. They usually have different rhythms, different inflections in their voice. You have to get used to it. I mean, Aaron Rodgers is probably one of the most famous ones. You can hear him doing his inflections and the way that he handles his snap count, and it's different from everyone else.
Green 18. Green
18. Yeah, you got to get used to. You definitely got to get used to it. So those are all things that are gonna happen through the preseason. Also, they had the crowd, so things change up. So these are all things that's good that they got to go through. Mm-hmm. Finally, situations where they can play in a game and get to go over them, and that's how they're going to be able to grow and get better. And I thought that you're right. Jalen Moore looked good. He handled his business. He did not look bad. I think it's been overhyped, like how bad they were, and overanalyzed how bad that second unit defense or offensive line was. Because I thought overall they held their own. There were situations they got beat, and that's to be expected.
There were situations where they got beat really badly, and I hate to break it to folks. I have a sneaking suspicion that a lot of that was just on line calls and things of that nature, and I don't think that falls on Trey Lance. I think that falls on the center, Brandell, or whoever else it was that was rotating in there, because for the most part, I saw a lot of good things from Jalen Moore. I saw a lot of good things from McKivitz, and even Tom Compton at times looked really good out there at tackle.
Yeah.
Banks had his moments as well where he looked really good, and then he struggled. It just felt like inconsistencies in terms of communication is honestly what it felt like. It didn't feel like guys were whiffing on blocks for the most part. It felt like when there were breakdowns and guys were getting beat heavy, it's because they were expecting one thing and got something different. So the call just wasn't there. They weren't in the right alignment. They didn't have the right responsibilities picked out for everybody. It seemed like people were expecting A and got B, and when that happens in a split second like that, it's very easy to get beat.
Yeah, it is. I mean, 100%. And there are areas throughout the 49ers team that definitely need to be improved, and you got to see it in preseason, but you don't get to see it until you get to preseason. Until you get to these games, it's probably not magnified as much. So now they get nice, good tape that they can go and, go over, clean up, work on all this stuff, and then put that forth, in when they get into the Chargers practices and be able to focus on those things as well. I thought it was also very cool to hear Kyle Shanahan talk about the fact they ran a lot of man coverage, so that way they could take a look at Demo and Ambry Thomas in a lot of man situations, and that makes sense why they were on islands. And Ambry Thomas struggled a little bit more than Diamador Lenore, but that makes a lot of sense now. They weren't really doing a lot of different coverages and things. They wanted to see how these guys were going to handle being on an island, the technique, being able to handle these receivers, being able to finish tackles, and we got to see it, and that's great. And they'll scheme up some more stuff, but they're evaluating talent right now.
Correct. Look, Tommy there with a bold take. I guess he missed the preview show, so he had to get his wow, that's bold. And now saying that Aaron Banks is already a bust. A bit much there, Tommy, especially since this guy has drastically improved from the last Saturday that we saw him.
Yeah, if I would have saw the same Aaron Banks that I saw Saturday where he was just getting absolutely smoked by Maurice Hurst.
Every play. Almost
every single play he was getting worked laterally.
That second unit couldn't get anything going with the run game.
And when he came out on Tuesday, he looked better. He was handling Maurice Hurst a little bit better. Maurice Hurst was still getting him. And then by Thursday, he was doing a lot better, able to anchor down and really stop the pass rush and wasn't getting beat at as much laterally. So he's developing. It's just not developing as fast as people wanted, and he's definitely not a starter, which I think a lot of people wanted, and that was getting put out there right away, right, that he was going to be a starter. A lot of people saw the size, the potential, the way that this offense was going to be changed by the inside vertical run game, and then adding in, also the running backs that are good at that vertical run game. So I think that was another time when I think the media did somebody a disservice by completely pushing this guy out there and making it seem like he was ready to start day one over Daniel Brunskill, and he needed time to develop, and people need to be patient and give him that time to develop.
Agreed with you there. They definitely need to give him that time. Tommy also talked about he was wishing Trey Lance threw the ball away a few more times. That is expected out of a rookie quarterback, especially a guy like Trey who's got so many physical gifts to want to try and make a play. I mean, that's just a rookie thing in the NFL. Every time you touch the ball, you're going to want to make a play. You're going to want to have success. You don't want to just throw the ball away, especially if it's a third down, right? And you have an opportunity to extend a drive and make a first down. You don't necessarily want to throw that check down. You don't want to put the ball out of bounds and just come out and concede to the defense. That takes time. It takes time to understand that not every drive in the NFL is going to lead to points. Sometimes, you just get yourself in a bad situation and you're just trying to get yourself in a better position to try and flip the field and give your defense an opportunity to have some success so that you can do the same thing, get a quick stop, get the ball back, and try and, again, change the momentum. He'll learn that with time. It's going to take time, though.
Yeah, he's not ready to be Kenny Rogers yet. He doesn't know when to hold him and when to fold him. He's not the gambler yet. He will figure that out, though. He will figure out the timing, when are good places. I thought also he didn't really scramble. He could have scrambled. He didn't, which, to be honest with you, I liked a lot. I like him, kind of looking to always throw down the field. Some of these guys, they get used to just taking off and running, and that can be a negative down the road. But when you can mix it in and really just extend plays, but continue to look for your receivers downfield, he's going to have guys that can break open later on. So,
correct.
Overall, I think that's something he's just going to excel at in the future.
Agreed. And Terrell Cox there, I just wanted to hit this last one. He had talked about how crazy it is, how people are overreacting. It's only one game of the preseason. You're right, but unfortunately, this is the world we now live in. They made the move for Trey Lance. There's all eyes are on this team, so everything that the 49ers do is going to be under a microscope. Every player is going to get overanalyzed. Every play is going to be an overreaction or an underreaction to. That's just, unfortunately, the world we live now.
Yes, and from what I understood from 49ers Twitter last night, Trey Lance does nothing wrong. The offensive line failed him. The receivers failed him. If not, he would have won a perfect 20 for 20 with 834 yards and 42 touchdowns. That is unfortunately how it gets portrayed when Trey himself realizes, and I think everyone that normally watches understands, you make mistakes, right? And that happens, but his growth is there. He looks a lot, really good. But yes, he's going to be overanalyzed the entire season. And it's unfortunate that his teammates are going to be overanalyzed the entire season too, but definitely a good player, definitely on the right track, and a lot of players are on the right track.
Agree. There's a ton of players on the right track, including Jonas Griffith, a guy that you have been all over and have been super hyped on. We saw some good things from in camp. He goes out there. He has himself a great day. He's in a position a lot of times he's attacking. And by the way, David with the $5 super chat. My goodness gracious almighty. Hashtag TCC. Hashtag the Cutback Crew. We love y'all, Cutback Crew. Thank you for the support. We really appreciate it. But Jonas Griffith had himself a day. He had himself a performance. He looked solid. He was shedding blocks. He was getting into the backfield. He was causing havoc. Megan with another $2.99 there, super chat. Hashtag TCC. Go Niners. Go Niners indeed. Thank you, Megan and David, both, that wonderful super chat. But no, I was extremely impressed. People were a little shocked that he was playing middle linebacker, and I was a little surprised at first too, just because I saw him operating more the outside backer in practice than I did inside at middle.
Right.
He looked good at both spots.
Yeah, he pointed out that he's learning the Sam backer spot. He's only learning it right now. He's been normally taking those snaps at Mike. He does the Fred Warner business. He's his backup. But I thought he looked great overall. I thought he was getting into where he needed to be. There were some times he didn't make his run fit. He didn't fill his window. He didn't get downhill. But those are things I expected from a guy playing his first NFL game ever. But I thought he shined. He looked good. He was finding receivers, moving across across, picking them up. He looked like he was recognizing things and getting out there and making plays. So overall, I thought he did good. I thought he's on the track to possibly make this roster. The addition of Michael Kendricks is going to change up that linebacker room a little bit.
Absolutely.
So we'll see how that goes moving forward. But I thought that overall, he was one of those guys as a young player, stood out as somebody that has a lot of potential that the 49ers could ultimately use him this year. And he was making plays on special teams as well. So that's going to be his avenue. He worked so hard in the offseason, changed his body, and now he's gonna go out there and reap the benefits of it.
100%. He's definitely going to. Coach Timo with the $10 super chat. Oh, goodness gracious almighty. What's up, fellas? Trey Lance was average with potential. Did you see Shanahan slap Grant Cohn at the postgame presser? LOL. Linebackers look good to him also as well. We did see the presser.
It's
great.
Yeah, you can recognize Grant Cohn's voice right away.
Oh, yeah.
And Shanahan, I think, was a little annoyed. I think he's annoyed with that conversation of the Jimmy Garoppolo offense and the Trey Lance offense. And the kind of the over need and the need for people to get Trey Lance outside the pocket. Everyone wants Trey Lance outside the pocket right now. And in preseason, that's not what you're trying to do. Number one, you don't really want this guy always outside the pocket. You want him to be able to operate in the pocket, and you want him to grow during preseason. So doing things maybe he's not as good at, is a good thing, so that way he can grow. That's what preseason is for, so he doesn't make those mistakes in the game. And second of all, you don't want to give away anything. You don't want these other teams seeing, what you're planning on doing with Trey Lance. There's a reason they didn't run read option. Does everyone know they're going to run read option? Yes, they do. But you know what they don't know? How it looks right now.
What the blocking scheme is, who are the read keys?
Well, the read keys are going to change every single play.
Always, but who are the guys they're targeting on certain looks, right, in certain packages? How are you blocking the rest of the guys in the box? What formations are you running it out of?
Personnel groupings.
Yeah, personnel groupings especially. I would not be surprised if we don't see a single read option look in the preseason.
Yeah. I think we're going to see a read option this week.
You think so?
Yeah, I think so. I think you'll see them run it against the Chargers in practice, and then eventually run it a little bit in the game. I don't think it'll be a lot, maybe like one or two.
Okay.
Just enough to go through it, because you don't want to run it for the first time a dry run against Detroit. You want to make sure you have it, but it's all a progression. A lot of the calls that you had it's kind of like OTAs, right? You're going through that progression. The only thing he did was he did hit some good play action. I thought his play action fakes were good. But it's all going to work out, and sometimes I don't get some of the other stuff, but yes, that was kind of interesting. Grant Cohn, he actually got in, I think, like 3 questions, and him and Kyle kind of had a nice little Discord there, so that was definitely interesting.
It was definitely interesting. I enjoyed watching it, though. And yeah, Timo, you're right about that. You're right about the linebackers looking good. And I don't think Trey Lance looked average. I thought he definitely looked above average. He demonstrated the reasons why the 49ers took him at 3 and traded the capital they traded. The arm strength and the IQ, the ability to scan the field and make some of the reads that he made, especially when he had time. You'll like to see those things, and the rest of it will come with time. So patience is going to be a virtue there. A Walking Stick had asked, what rookies do we thought stood out? Obviously, Trey stood out. He had a great performance. Jalen Moore had a great showing for a guy being stuck in there at left tackle, trying to fill the shoes of one Trent Williams. I liked what he did there. Deommodore Lenoir had moments and flashes, too, as well, where I liked what he did. And Talanoa Hufanga showed the kind of impact he can have on this team, at times making tackles in the open field, and especially on special teams.
Yeah, I thought Talanoa Hufanga was obvious rookie that stood out the most.
Yeah.
To me, he was going to fly around. We knew it. We saw it at training camp. He was starting to close on routes going over the middle and really close those down. He definitely looked good, and he was a sure tackler. Like we had the one play where the quarterback was scrambling and Marcel Harris. It was Jared McKinnon.
Yes.
And Marcel Harris couldn't quite get him down, but Talanoa Hufanga was there. And that seemed to be kind of the thing. You're in good hands with him. He was making plays. And so I thought he looked good. And overall, I didn't think the speed seemed too much, which has been the question for him, was how would he operate on the deep third? Now, he didn't get tested deep down the field, which is something we still need to see how he responds to.
I imagine we're going to see a lot of that this week against the
Probably.
Chargers.
And you're going to see this guy step up. But yes, Justin Herbert's going to try to get the ball down the field. These corners, if you keep them on islands, they're going to get tested. But we will see probably a little bit of Emmanuel Mosley, a little bit of Jason Verrett. So you'll get to see these corners against true number 2 receivers and not, number 1s like they were seeing this time. So it'll all pan out and it'll all be good. But it's definitely some interesting storylines.
Oh, agree. There's definitely going to be some interesting storylines indeed. And we did see the one time where Hufanga got tested a little bit with the speed with Tyreek Hill around the edge. Hufanga is there. He's in the right position. And then Tyreek Hill is a different level of speed. And he took a little bit of too short of an angle. And
yes.
Hill was able to get around the outside. The good news, folks, Hill does that to a lot of folks. It's not just Talanoa Hufanga. So it was one of those things where you like seeing that because Talanoa Hufanga, he gives that perception of perfectionist. He doesn't like to make mistakes, and when he does make a mistake, he wants to come back and make some sort of impact somewhere else on the field. He has the right mindset as a defender. He knows he may not be a guy who makes all of the impact defensively, and so he wants to transition that over to special teams. I liked watching that happen and then watching the evolution of him and not basically putting him in a situation where he couldn't make tackles. He only had the one other one on special teams on the punt where he kind of overran a little bit and the guy was able to get the sideline, but he still fought to stay in the play and ended up helping gang tackle the guy at the end to bring him down after about 4 or 5 yards. So a lot of what Talanoa Hufanga did yesterday was very, very promising with this team.
Yeah.
I look forward to it. A guy who didn't really have the greatest day, he had moments and flashes, was Hilliard. I think you and I both are watching Justin Hilliard on the field, and he just kind of looks slow right now.
Yes, I mean he was having some development issues when we were watching him. There's no reason why he shouldn't have already ascended to at least the second string with all the injuries that are going on, and the fact that he's still hovering back there makes me think him and Sullivan are definite practice squad candidates. Both of them had flashes. Both of them looked okay at times, but definitely nothing that's going to jump off the screen. They look like undrafted free agents. That's exactly what they are. And Jonas has definitely ascended above them as undrafted free agent guys. So I don't see either one of them making this roster. There's a reason they're going out and getting a Michael Kendricks and those guys. Flanagan Foles' spot is in trouble now. And we need to get Aziz back. I think Jonas can do something. I think Jonas has the potential to eventually start. I don't know if that's this year. He's got some development still. He's improved, in coverage, but he's still got to get better at it.
Correct. I agree with you there. And look, Pino was upset about the All-22 film. I think everyone is, but we don't know if that's the case or not. I don't remember them having All-22 film in the preseason last year.
Yeah, I don't know for sure. But
so patience, but only time will tell.
If the All-22 film is not going to be up, we have a problem because
big problem.
They told basically that's why I got Game Pass, and without it, I don't need Game Pass.
Well, it's literally useless.
Yeah, it's pointless. I can watch all kinds of highlights on online or whatever. So they definitely need to have that.
Correct, definitely, indeed. But overall, it was a good showing from this team, and I know there's still people worried about the O-line play, especially with that second unit and that second team. And you may be thinking, because of some of the shots that Trey took. Look, as I said before, I think a lot of it was communication. I don't know if it was necessarily guys getting beat per se. There were a few times where guys got beat and Trey took some shots that he didn't need to have to. But the other thing to keep in mind also is that you had some of the second team guys running with that first group. So there were guys who operated with that first group, and the first group didn't look too terrible in terms of protection. Now, I know Jimmy only dropped back a handful of times, but Trey at times is going to have success and bad things happen with that second unit because there's guys there that are still learning. What I can say is I didn't see Tom Compton getting beat a whole heck of a lot. I didn't see Colton McKivitz getting beat a whole heck of a lot. I didn't see Jalen Moore getting beat a whole heck of a lot. I can think of a handful of times where Aaron Banks got beat and then a handful of times where he looked very, very solid, especially in the run game and on a few of Trey Lance's great passes. So the potential is there. They have shown that they can do it at times, and then other times they get beat.
Right.
That's probably why they're on the second team. They have areas that they're trying to clean up in order to become more consistent players in the NFL. Some of it is youthfulness. Some of it is just lack of game experience. It's going to take time. Patience for a few of these guys.
Yeah, and Tommy's bringing up the backup center, Jake Brendel. That is part of the issue because when he's out there, there's communication issues. Now, is there times that offensive line got beat? Yes. There was also times when it was a communication issue, obviously, because if you watch, a outside blitzer comes off the edge and Warner goes inside, and they would normally fan out, and they would be fine. Sean Coleman would have fanned out, picked up a guy. Warner would have picked up that outside blitzer, and they would have had the protection. So Trey Lance saw the numbers and thought we're good to go. So he's not worried about backside pressure coming.
Correct.
The problem is there was a communication issue, whether it came from the center or ultimately Sean Coleman and Charlie Warner, where they weren't on the same page. And if they would have been on the same page, they would have picked it up. I think a lot of times it wasn't straight getting beat by a one-on-one matchup, but getting beat because they were playing, out of position, doing the wrong thing, not getting their job done. All communication issues like that can be cleaned up. This week of practice against the Chargers is going to be invaluable because they're going to be able to go over all this stuff again. They'll be able to put these players in this exact situation again, and now Coleman and Warner can get it right. And they're going to make sure that everyone gets it right. I mean, the blocking confusion is not a new thing. Like, this really happens. So it over-enhanced, I guess, the appearance that this offensive line is complete trash, when sometimes it was because of circumstance. There are moments that were bad for this offensive line.
Absolutely.
I can't say that they were real good at times, but overall, we can't put it all on them.
No, it can't go all on them. There has to be some give and take because there has to be an understanding. Again, no one's perfect. So there were times where I thought they did a pretty good job, and they're not going to get any love for those situations in which they do a great job and Trey's able to make a good throw. There's got to be some sort of balance. But I'm really looking forward to seeing them continue their development and continue their growth going forward. And I want to talk about two guys on offense that we've kind of skimmed over a little bit. We skimmed over it a little bit last night. We skimmed over it definitely today, who are continuing to have good performances and good games and putting together good things on tape. Number one, Juwan Jennings.
Yeah.
Juwan Jennings is doing a phenomenal job of just continuing his development and continuing to impress and show there's more to his game than just being a guy you can throw deep and jump ball, using him in the slot, using him in the screen game, letting him try and catch the ball and maneuver in space, and then catching the ball across the middle of the field as well. I like a lot of the things that Juwan Jennings is putting on film, and he's making this wide receiver battle in the wide receiver room much, much harder. It's going to be a very tough decision because of the things that he's adding to the table and adding to his list of skill sets that he can add to the offense.
You saw small glimpses of how they plan on using certain people, and Juwan Jennings was one of those. Getting him the tunnel screens and letting him, create with his legs and the physicality to be able to make plays is something that is nice to see because that's something you normally get from Deebo Samuel a lot. And having a guy that you can have go in there when Deebo's out and spell him and be able to do the same thing is nice. And then you saw, them getting some of the reverse game going, the fly sweeps going, Brandon Ayuk, and some of the other guys. But before I get into all them, you're right. Juwan Jennings looked really good. The one knock on him last year was that he struggled, to catch the ball consistently. There's been no struggles from him. That is where he has excelled compared to like Richie James in practice. Richie James, the same things you saw last night, you saw in practice. He struggles to always latch the ball, lock it down. Where Juwan Jennings doesn't. He snatches the ball out of the air. When you get a drop in practice, it was few and far between. So he is developing nice. I think overall he looks quick, which is nice because he's not very fast, but he looks quick and he gets open. And there were several times where that he was missed, that he was open, where he could have had even more potential plays. That's going to get spotted on film, and he's going to get more opportunities.
Agreed. He's definitely going to, and he deserves them because he hasn't had the dropping issues this camp. We haven't seen it when we've been there. There's been no reports of it coming out, and then he put things on film that he needed to put on film yesterday in yesterday's game and in his performance. So you like to see that. The other guy that I have to talk about is Trent Sherfield because this is a guy who we didn't write off, but we definitely weren't getting on some of the hype train that people were talking about when he came over from Arizona. People obviously saw something that we didn't because on film, there was nothing there. I don't know how Cliff Kingsbury wasn't able to utilize this guy with some sort of success because all of the things they want Andy Isabella to do in that Arizona offense, Trent Sherfield has demonstrated here in San Francisco he can do. He can stretch the defense and get over the top. He's physical. He can run his routes. He can catch the ball over the middle of the field. He's operating as a wonderful slot receiver. I don't understand how he wasn't having success in Arizona, but Cliff Kingsbury's failures is Kyle Shanahan's greatest acquisition and greatest treasure. He continues to improve. He continues to grow. I love everything that Trent Sherfield is doing right now in this system, and I cannot wait for it to continue to expand as he gets more and more comfortable with this team.
And I love the super chat by Tommy Huxley with Tasty Hasty wants all the smoke, baby. Sure. Yes, and I should have read the baby like baby. Yeah, that's how I wanted it to sound. But 100% Tasty Hasty looked good as well. But when you're talking about Trent Sherfield, Kyle Shanahan kind of alluded to that last night when they were talking about his receiver skills. And it was kind of like, yeah, well, Hightower told us he could also play receiver. We didn't really get to see a lot of that. We didn't get to see a lot of film. So he wasn't far off from what our interpretation of the film was either. It's like he had to come in there and prove it, and he did, right? He came in as a special teams ace. That's why they brought him in to see what he could do. And he's developed into more. And good on him. And he's put in the effort. He's put in the work. He talks a lot about how much he learned from Larry Fitzgerald, but he's doing what he needs to do, and he looks good, and he looks a lot faster. Once again, Cliff Kingsbury does not know how to use this guy. That is a good sign for the 49ers. They did not know what they had. Kyle Shanahan knows exactly what he had, and he's using it, and Sherfield's going to be successful. Sherfield went from being a bubble guy to he's 100% making this roster.
100%. And look, Tommy, Megan is correct. Tim Ryan and Greg Papa listen to the 49ers Cutback Podcast because they're calling him Tasty Hasty.
Confirmed. I mean, maybe Tim Ryan just stumbled upon that, but we definitely were the first to that. Alex was busting Tasty Hasty for a long time.
Agreed. I mean, Tasty Hasty was the first thing that popped into my head. I just loved it. Did Papa sound corny come across as corny last night? Was it just me? It's kind of always.
I'm just gonna refuse to comment on Greg Papa.
Correct.
Because no. Just no.
Just gonna say no to that.
No. I want no part of it.
It's true. It's true.
I like Tim Ryan. I do like Tim Ryan.
I love Tim Ryan.
Yeah.
Tim Ryan's funny.
Yeah, he's funny, but no on Greg Papa.
Let's
bring Ted Robinson back, please.
Something. Anything but that.
Can we get Joe Starkey, please?
Joe Starkey.
I want that. Oh, what a bonanza!
Bonanza was good.
It was.
It's a good call.
Yeah.
It's great usage of words there.
I like it.
Great verbiage.
Yeah.
I love it.
I don't think Lon Simmons can't do it, but Lon Simmons was great too.
He was.
Yeah.
Was. Papa, it is what it is. Look, I like that, though. Sherfield definitely continuing to improve upon and build upon his camp performances in games. again, as time wears on, as time moves on, he's going to be a great addition with Debo and Ayuk and Sanu and Jennings, whoever the 6 end up being. You're going to have a nice rotation where you're not going to have, I would say, a traditional wide receiver 3. You're going to have a bunch of guys who can rotate in at 3 and 4.
Yeah, I like what David Campbell just said. Papa saying "Bang Bang Niner Gang" is just wrong. Yes, it just feels forced. It feels weird. Don't like it. No, don't like it.
Not at all.
Not at all. So that is 100% true. Yeah, and there were other key stories in this game. I think the running back's another story. I've seen a lot of negativity being thrown towards Wayne Gallman, that he wasn't going to make this roster.
He looked fine.
I think Wayne Gallman looked fine. Did he have any explosive plays? No, he didn't. But you got to remember, how the game's going, the even flows. But he was making good cuts, pressing to the line of scrimmage, doing what he's supposed to do. John Lynch talked about the fact he was still learning the system in OTAs, but now he's starting to come into his own. Don't write Gallman off yet, but I did think Hasty looked good. Gallman looked good. There were times where Trey Sermon looked really good.
Mm-hmm.
So they definitely have a nice running back room. Hopefully Elijah Mitchell can get out there. We'll see what happens, because I'd really like to see him run again, because I liked what he did in practicing on that Saturday practice as well at Levi's.
Tommy Sermon was disappointing. I hate to say it. Look, he had his moments, he had his flashes, but the build-up for Trey Sermon has been he's going to eventually take over, right, and amass 100-plus carries and be RB1. He hasn't solidified that. We haven't seen that version of Trey Sermon appear yet. There were a couple times where I thought he missed opportunities to have bigger runs in which he could have bounced something or cut a different area or moved to a different space and busted a run. Gallman had a few of those runs as well. And Hasty had flashes. But if Elijah Mitchell is dealing with an adductor strain, that is not a good sign. If it's truly like what's going on, it's not a good sign for him, because that is going to take a few weeks for him to get back to, which means we may not see him until the 3rd preseason game, and there may not be enough time for him to do anything else other than get stashed on the practice squad.
Yeah, Jag brought up about Trey Sermon. Also, I believe he got a stinger.
It looked like a stinger.
When it happened, he was kind of playing with his hand. That was the play where he fumbled. I kind of said, to you, Alex, that I thought, maybe he got a stinger on the play. Ultimately, I believe that's what it was. Trey Sermon, this is what we saw in practice, right?
Correct.
This is why I had kind of tempered expectations for him, is if you're expecting dynamite plays where he's going to get, chunk plays of 60, 70 yards like Raheem Mostert is, it's not going to happen. He's going to get ran down. He doesn't have the speed. He has great vision on the interior. It's not always on display. Maybe he didn't have the windows. I think there were a few times where he missed opportunities to cut back or missed the hole, but that's to be expected in your first preseason game. But I think there are moments where he looked really good. So I think he's kind of developing too, right where we thought he was going to develop. But there was a hype train around him that was putting him up there as maybe the best running back in the draft at times from people we talked to. And maybe that was a little too much pressure for this guy, because, and not so much that he's feeling it, just from an outside perspective, because the guy is good. He just needs time to develop. But there's a different dynamic between each running back. And Raheem Mostert has a dynamic of explosiveness that people have gotten used to. You see that when he runs his outside zone. He's out there, and every single time he touches the ball, he can take it to the house. You will not get that from any other running back, that dynamic speed where you can take it to the house, except maybe Elijah Mitchell, and we might not get to see him the entire preseason.
Yeah, it kind of sucks. It really does. Not Coach Timo. Megan had asked, do you guys think Simba will be the solo punt returner? Not the punt returner. At this point in time, he looks like he's going to be, he's the lead candidate right now as the kick returner, because he was the best kick returner in one preseason game. He's definitely going to get some more run and some more looks. We'll have to see who else is going to be available and who else is going to be a guy who can step up and get some run. They're definitely going to rotate these people through, though.
Yeah. His thing is he's going to have to make the roster as a receiver.
He's going to have to, because there's too much talent at that wide receiver.
Yeah, and Kyle's talked about this. You have to find that balance, because you get a player that excels on special teams, but you're one injury away from this guy having to play 60 or 70 plays in a game. And he's got to be able to play offense at a high level. Did he look good? Yes. He needs to stack on this performance. I think he's definitely put himself in the conversation, especially with the kind of the fall off of Richie James and River Craycraft, where I think, Simba was behind them, and I think now he's at least pulled even, maybe even moved ahead of them. But he's got to stack on this performance, and he's got to do better. So hopefully he can get it going. But I don't think you're not keeping a guy just as a straight returner. This is not something you can do in today's NFL. You need these guys to be able to produce everywhere. Yes, he looked good on Saturday. Let's see if he can stack on those performances and do well on Sunday against the Chargers. And then ultimately, if he gets to play against the Raiders, let's see what happens. But he put himself in a good position, but I definitely don't think it's a lock for him to make this roster by any means.
No, definitely not. We'll have to see what happens. He's going to have to earn it, though, especially in the wide receiver room. And speaking of offensive guys, and I think it's time. I think we need to get into our straight beast for the 49ers. Let's go over this and get into this. But first, everyone, for those of you it's the first time on the channel, welcome to Straight Beast, Offensive Player of the Game.
It is time for the Straight Beast. And so now we get to pick an offensive player first. And this is going to be fun because I like to talk about offensive straight beast of the game. I'm going to go with Trey Lance. I think an obvious pick, but somebody that came out and executed, I think, to the level that I was expecting him to play. The touch, the nice throw, the way he was able to operate the offense for a rookie in his first game looked very good. So I'm going to give him his props on that. There were other options I thought played well, but I'm going to go with Trey on this one.
That's a fair one. Trey did all the things he needed to show, right? He showed some ability to read, showed the big arm, right? Showed that he could stand in the pocket and take some shots, and he wasn't going to rely on his legs. All things that I wanted to see out of him in his first preseason performance, all boxes that were checked. I have to go with Trent Sherfield, though. The big play down the field, the speed, him showing that he can create separation. Alex Faulkner is going to be coming into the chat later and saying I'm so right about Sherfield because he was right. He was dead on right about this guy. This guy looked the part. He looked every bit of a potential wide receiver 3 for this team. I'm excited to see what he continues to develop as and grow with this system as things go on. But for sure, with 100% certainty, those two guys, Trent Sherfield and Trey Lance, were two of the better performers top to bottom for that offense and definitely deserve to be straight beasts in week 1 of the preseason.
Yeah, definitely. Both those guys showed up and they played well. I think if we probably would have had more of a Sherfield, response, and he would have played more if he wouldn't have been kind of in that, number 1 role. We'll probably see more of him as games go on. But yeah, both of them played great, and they definitely deserve to be recognized as, offensive players of the game because they played really well. And like we said, Trey had inconsistencies, but overall, I think it was a great performance for his first time.
Agreed, definitely. And yeah, Jawan Jennings did look good. Niner Joe Empire. He really did. No, look, I'm all for everybody's opinion on this offense because this offense had a lot of good things, a lot of positive things out of it. But there's also the defense, and there's a lot of good things from this defense
True.
And from defensive players. Whether it was your linebacker play from Jonas Griffith, Talanoa Hufanga there on the outside, Diamador Lenore having some moments as well. Dante Johnson being out there and not being targeted once, folks. Not one time them even looking his direction. I loved that out of Dante Johnson. And Tim Ryan talked about it on the air during the broadcast of the game, that right now it felt like it was obviously Mosley and Verrett. Those are your number 2 and your number 1. And then he said if he had to pick a number 3 right now, it would be Dante Johnson. Yeah,
Dante Johnson. I think that's what we saw in practice. We've made that clear. It is definitely Dante Johnson that is the guy right behind the starters on the outside. He's the 4th best corner behind Shark and then Mosley and Verrett. So I think that's what we're looking at. And these other guys are battling for that last spot, which is kind of crazy to think. But Dante Johnson's the guy that can count on right now, and he's looked good all through training camp. So it's really nice. And at least we have somebody we can count on. I thought B.W. Webb early, we saw what we have been seeing in camp, and then he gets crossed up on that touchdown pass where he gets caught looking in the backfield. You get caught peeking on man coverage, and you're going to get beat. You have to make sure you're always focused on your guy, and he didn't. That's what happens, man. Peak, get beat. And unfortunately, that happened to him. But he overall has been playing well in camp. Let's see how he does if he bounces back against the Chargers.
Agreed. I want to see that as well. B.W. Webb's going to have to because that was not a good red zone possession for him there. And he is going to need to show that he can clean things up. It looked like a communication error, though. They were trying to figure out what exactly they wanted to do and where to be. So we'll have to see what happens and how he is going forward. But it's going to be nice getting to see these guys operating more closer to their actual teams and what they're going to be running with in the second preseason game because you're going to get a little bit more Mosley and Verrett out there, hopefully, in the second one. You're going to get some Jimmy Ward out there as well. So you're going to get these guys, K'Wan Williams out there. You're going to get these guys in closer situations to what they're actually going to be in the season rather than having them go out there and run in spots where maybe you wouldn't necessarily have them. Because while Dante Johnson has been running on the outside as number 3, there have been times where he's also gone in on the inside and running the slot. And who knows, Ant, maybe the idea here is that you have Mosley, right? You have Verrett on the outside, you have K1 in the slot, and Dante Johnson is that hybrid guy who can play in the slot or on the outside as well. Maybe he's the true backup behind K1 Williams.
Could be. Yeah, that is the true point. It could be. And I think that corner room and that DB room has still always been the question of training camp. I think it's been the question since we were in the offseason. I think the 49ers ultimately would have loved to have brought in Richard Sherman if he wouldn't have had some issues. Unfortunately, that didn't work out. So now they're kind of going with what they have. The good thing they have going for them is they have a front seven that's fantastic, a great defensive line. When you have a great defensive line, it helps the back end. But there are so many times at practice, and I know everyone can't go out there to practice, so it's our job to kind of put it out there. There are so many times that Jimmy Garoppolo and Trey Lance drop back, and there's just no one open.
Nobody.
When they had the first unit out there was just so many times where they were just eating sacks over and over. That first team secondary has looked very good. Wilson has been a nice addition there at safety. He's been flying around making plays as well. So I think people are going to be pleasantly surprised with the first team. It's the depth that's the issue. Dante Johnson's probably the best right now that we have that can come in and play, but it's not as bad as you would think because at least they're all veterans and they know what's expected of them. But that has been a question all through camp.
It definitely has been a question through camp. But you know what's not been a question through camp, Ant, or at least after this game, is who are the defensive standouts from this game, from this Week 1 preseason game.
Yeah.
Folks, it's time for the Block is Hot.
Is hot defensive player of the game. Alex, I'm going to let you lead this one off. I got to go first on the offensive side. And just so people know that, yes, there were lots of offensive players that had great performances as well. I see people bringing them up, and those are great choices as well. These are just the ones we went with. And on defense, it's kind of the same thing, where there's a lot of great performances, but we had to narrow it down to a couple.
You have to try and narrow it down.
Yes.
It can be very, very difficult. Mine is going to have to be Talanoa Hufanga because of the impact. Second level, especially open field tackling with the defense and the aggressiveness that he showed.
Yeah.
He didn't look unconfident. He looked very confident. He looked like he executed well in the defensive schemes. There are obviously still things we want to see from him, but specifically also for the impact he had on special teams. He was down there making plays. It felt like every time there was some sort of punt or kickoff, Talanoa Hufanga was in the mix. He was there around the football, or there around causing havoc, causing problems, blowing up blocks, tackling returners. He wants to be a special teams all-pro guy, Pro Bowl type of guy. Right now, he's trying to carve that path, and I saw a lot of positive things from him yesterday in that game. He is my Block is Hot defensive player of the game.
Yeah, that's a good choice. I mean, that really is a good choice. I'm going to go with my guy, Jonas Griffith.
There you go.
I almost put Jawan Jennings. Anyways.
That would have been good.
Both of those guys are two of my favorite guys on this roster trying to make the team. But, yeah, Jonas Griffith, I had an expectation after watching him at practice that he was going to come in and have a good game, and I thought he did have a good game. And he put himself kind of out there where people now recognize who he is and understand that he's a legitimate, possibility to make this roster, which I think beforehand no one was really taking notice of him. He's been on my radar since last year. The development is there, though. From last year to this year, there's a huge development. I like it. So I like the things that he did. I thought the fact that he only played in the first half and then he was out, which means there's some comfort there. But he's definitely standing out from the other guys that are behind him. So I don't think he's going to get ran down and caught for his roster spot. I think Flanagan Foles is on the hot seat now. He had the concussion. He's in the concussion protocol. And this guy right now, I think Jonas is outplaying him from what we saw in camp. And now he's got, game film finally to put on that. This was his first game ever in the NFL, first preseason game. He didn't get to do it last year. So he's just like these rest of these rookies, but he's definitely developed way far, a lot further than they have. And I think a lot further than even Flanagan Foles has.
That's fair. That's definitely fair. Flanagan Foles really hasn't had the opportunity yet, and in terms of a lot of opportunity in preseason games the last couple of years. Mm-hmm. Starts off this year on concussion protocol, so hopefully he's able to get back out there and do something, because right now that second group of linebackers needs some help, and Jonas Griffith was having to run with the first and the second team. He can't do it all by his lonesome. Michael Kendrick should hopefully help that out a little bit. Hopefully Demetrius Flanagan Foles can get back out there, and in a few weeks, get closer to towards week 1 of the season, you get Al-Shaair back as well, and this linebacker group goes from being pretty scarce right now in terms of reliable guys back there to, okay, now you may have an influx and you have some tough choices to make.
Yeah, Ron is coming with a nice question. He said, if JaMychal Hasty makes a 53-man roster, which running back goes to the practice squad. Do you think JaMychal Hasty makes the team? We've had a few conversations about this, and we even went into this with Chapman a little bit, was because we all like JaMychal Hasty, and we were trying to find a way that he was going to make this roster. The Jeff Wilson Jr. Injury definitely made it more possible. If Jeff Wilson Jr. is on this roster, I doubt they would have been able to keep him. They might not even been able to keep Wayne Gallman. I think it's interesting that Elijah Mitchell's hurt. That's one thing I'll say. I would not be shocked if we don't see Elijah Mitchell the entire preseason, and ultimately he ends up, on some sort of a list where they don't have to cut him, because they don't want to have to lose him, but they want to be able to make sure they keep JaMychal Hasty, because if they have to release Hasty will end up on the Rams or the Seahawks or the Cardinals, and he will make plays for them. So I definitely think he's put himself in the conversation to make this team. He's a very good player. We like him a lot. We have, since we saw him play for the first time last year in a game where we, put out a video, you must protect JaMychal Hasty on the practice squad. We knew that was a possibility, that they needed to do that. And ultimately, he's only gotten better. But he needs to stop putting the ball on the ground.
Accurate.
If he puts the ball on the ground, he will not make this roster, because it doesn't matter how good you are. If you fumble, your coach is going to get upset, and he's going to want to have somebody. He'd rather somebody get 2 less yards and secure that ball.
Yes. 100% yes, 1,000 times yes. This is the one thing you can't do as a running back. You put the ball on the ground, and unless you're a generational talent like Adrian Peterson, who had that little stretch of fumble issues, and he was still rushing for over 1,000 yards and just killing defenses, unless you're that kind of running back, you're expendable. Yeah. You cannot put the football on the ground. That's the one thing you can't do as a running back. It's the same thing with receivers. You can't drop footballs as a receiver and expect to be on a roster playing for a team or even given a chance on a practice squad. JaMychal Hasty, if he cleans those things up, though, the good news, he has a chance to make the roster. But the problem is, and this is something David talked about, he said, if that happens, someone's getting IR'd with a hangnail. It could end up being Elijah Mitchell, folks.
It could.
They may want to roll with a guy like Hasty, who they know what they've already seen out of him, and give Elijah Mitchell time and just, kibosh him, put him on the shelf, put him on IR, get him to the practice squad where no one will touch him because he's coming off of an injury and dealing with a hip adductor is what they're calling it right now. So that could be the plan, and that could be the thing that they're going with, Ant. I don't know if that's actually going to be the case. But JaMychal Hasty is going to have an opportunity. We've always thought that. We've seen Shanahan use him as a slot receiver and motion him out wide. He did that yesterday as well, getting him out of the backfield on third downs when Rosen was out there in space to rush. The touchdown run that he had was wonderful. The great contact balance, being able to keep himself alive and reach and extend for the end zone, something that we saw him do at times last year. He does look like he's running a little bit more physically than he has in the past. He's still a small frame guy, so it's not going to be his biggest strength in the world. But the key thing is going to be ball security.
It is. That's the key for him, because he's always looked dynamic. Some vision issues at times, but I think what we saw Thursday in practice really, translated to what we saw yesterday in the game, is that he really looked good. He's able to make his cuts, and he was also running with more physicality, able to finish at the goal line, which was an issue for him last year. And I think that there are key, strengths and weaknesses for each one of these running backs that make Kyle Shanahan want to have them on this team. And one of those things, that's why Gallman has a very good shot to make this roster, because originally we thought it was going to be Gallman versus Hasty. The reason Gallman has a chance is because he's so good in the red zone. Anytime we were there and they got to a 3rd and 1 in the red zone, they almost always put Gallman in to finish it off. He would go in and he would take care of business. He's a great runner and a great finisher. JaMychal Hasty does normally struggle in those situations just because he's smaller in stature and he gets stuffed at the line of scrimmage. So I think they got some tough decisions, and they're going to have even more tough decisions once Jeff Wilson Jr. comes, back from the PUP list. It's going to be hard for them to decide who makes this team and who doesn't. But I mean, at least we're in that situation where it's going to be, a good situation, a good cut, because you have a lot of great players still. But yeah, we still got to get that figured out.
Definitely going to have to get that figured out. And I think it's time to get into one of the newer segments that we kind of introduced in the middle of last season in our recap shows. Folks, this segment is specially designed for those guys who just go out there and put the hurt on the opposing teams, whether that's big hits, big blocks, no matter what it is. Folks, it's time for the hurt business.
Start by saying this. I fully expect Talanoa Hufanga to be putting people in the hurt business all year long.
He will definitely at some point be a member of the hurt business in 2021. 100%.
And the guy that I'm going with, and I don't know if you agree with this or not.
It's got to be an agreement.
Yeah, we're going to actually go with Aaron Banks.
Absolutely.
The way that he was able to get down the field and just absolutely clean up on a defensive player from Kansas City. In fact, it's the play he gets hurt on because he goes in and absolutely obliterates the guy and falls over onto his shoulder and gets hurt. But it was good to see the big guy getting moving, getting downfield, and wrecking someone. And he was definitely welcoming people to the hurt business.
Absolutely, the big fat pancake there at second level. And look, this is what we mean. We talked a little bit about Aaron Banks' struggles, but what people don't want to do is give him credit for when he does good things. When sometimes people want to take the good things and give him too much credit and not focus on the bad. It's a nice balance here. Banks had some struggles, but Banks showed some moments also where you don't maybe necessarily have as many concerns with him being able to get downfield to second level and make blocks. This is a guy who's played in a zone run scheme in the past and knows how to get himself in the right positions. And on this specific play, not only did he put himself in the right position, he leveled a huge block that opened up a nice little running lane. Unfortunately, falls a little awkwardly on his shoulder. But you know what? You still like seeing pancakes on film, man. Pancakes are still the greatest way to start off film sessions in the morning.
Yeah, we all know Trent Williams is all over this usually. So it's nice to see Aaron Banks getting a big time play like that. He's criticized enough for the plays that he misses. So when he gets one, let's give him credit. Somebody brought up, do we have a special teams one? We did not have a special teams one, but I think we need to add a special teams one here eventually. But I think if we were going to pick a special teams ace, there were two guys that stood out. So I'll take one of them, and I'm sure you can take the other one. I'm going to go with Jordan Matthews because that's not the obvious one, but I thought he made a couple of really, really nice plays on kick coverage. And so I'm going to go with him because I thought he played really well, and he's pushing to make this roster because he can do more than just play tight end. Now he can play special teams and add there, and that's what you have to do when you're trying to make a roster. He knows what it takes. He's a savvy veteran.
Definitely a savvy veteran indeed. What I liked I liked also Talanoa Hufanga in special teams. Josh Hockett had some moments as well where he was looking really, really solid. And Mitch Wisniewski, got to tip the hat to him a little bit.
There you go.
I'm concerned about the distances, with him being able to flip the field. He had a couple of bombs yesterday. I liked it. I liked the leg. He had a couple of bombs deep downfield, and I was like, okay, Mitch, I see it. You've been working on the strength. You've been working on the distance a little bit. I like to see that. But Talanoa Hufanga was the other standout for me because he was in on so many tackles and so many situations in and around the football, right by the guy bringing him down. I liked it a lot. Megan had just asked about the new signing of Michael Kendricks. Necessary signing.
Yeah, he's somebody that already understands the system, played in Seattle. You're able to plug and play with this guy. That's what you're doing when you're bringing guys this late into camp. Ultimately, can he make this roster? Maybe as the end of the linebacker room. You're going to have 5 or 6 linebackers that make this roster. Maybe he's one of those. You also don't know if Azeez is going to play in week 1. He's still, kind of up in the air if he's going to be able to play week 1 against Detroit. So you make sure you have a guy that you would feel comfortable going out there and playing as that, Sam Backer. He only is going to play about 20% of the snaps, but you still have to make sure that you have somebody that you can count on. So it's a good signing, a solid one. I don't think they wanted to do this because you don't want to have to spend money. That's why, go into that piggy bank. But they did it, and they're going to have a guy that you can at least feel comfortable with. Let's see how he develops through the week, see if he gets any playing time on Sunday, and then ultimately how he develops. But it was a nice signing. That was a good veteran guy to get. Burgess hasn't really panned out. He hasn't played as good. He's a little slow, in reading, reacting. So they needed to make a move, and they did it. Good up to them.
Absolutely. I liked also what I saw out of Arden Key. Ron had brought it up. Coach Timo talked about Arden Key a little bit. Arden Key was on the brink of being my block is hot defensive player in the game. He was on the brink. He had a lot of good situations where he was able to get in, come off free, and get some pressure. It just didn't end up in sacks. It didn't end up with him disrupting things as much as you would like him to do. But I thought for his first performance operating against their first team at times, going in, rotating in, I liked what I saw out of him. He definitely looked a lot better yesterday in yesterday's game than anything he put on tape with the Raiders.
Yeah, Arden Key looked good. Maurice Hurst looked good. But Arden Key, he's going to be successful all year because he uses his length. He plays with his length. And now he's not having to worry about all these other responsibilities. He can get out in the wide 9 where he's got a lot more freedom and space to operate. And then he can get, out there and get that arm into the offensive player and then make a move off of it. This is a good situation for him. It's a good scheme for him to be in. He's going to be in a rotation, so when he goes out there, he's going to be fresh. I think Arden Key is going to be a nice rotational piece for the 49ers. Think about how Ronald Blair did for us in 2019. That's the role that this guy is going to play. He's going to go out there and spell Nick Bosa, spell Eric Armstead, and the 49ers know that they can count on him. He's going to get to the quarterback. The fact Deion Jordan got to the quarterback sometimes last year, Arden Key's a better player than him at this stage in his career for sure. And Arden Key's going to get out there and make plays. He had pressures yesterday. He's going to turn those into sacks. And I think that was a great piece, pickup and a piece to add to this team.
Absolutely. And someone had just asked about Webster if he won the kick returning job. He didn't win it.
No.
He definitely has put himself now in a position where you're going to take a look at him more on the offensive side of the ball and see if he can add something to the room, the wide receiver room. Because as you had pointed out, Ant, he can't just be a kick returner for this team. He's going to have to add something because there's too many good wide receivers already who can do a lot of different things for this offense and continue moving this offense in the right direction. And we really, really, really need someone who can add more than just one aspect to this game, to this team. That person can't just be a kick returner, and that's the only avenue that they add to this offense or add to the team overall as a whole. He's going to need to do a few other things as well.
Yeah, if he was playing receiver at a higher level, if he was able to, because, at camp, he really didn't show that much. If he was, then he would this would put him over the top and help him make the team, was his return skills. Because he's the only one that flashed yesterday in the return game. But you're not going to get that, you're not going to just have someone for a return game. You can't just have a Ted Ginn type guy out there, a Hester type guy that doesn't, really Hester's a perfect one where he doesn't really do anything on offense per se, but goes out there and is dynamic kick returner. We can't have that on our team. We need to have all that depth. The NFL just doesn't let you do that anymore. It's a different world. So I think he did help his cause, but ultimately, I don't know if he's going to, I don't know if this is going to put him over the top to make the roster. I think he's still got a lot of development to do. Plus, there's still those other guys that are going to have opportunities. And you would really like one of these guys that is going to make your roster to take that kick return job. But if it comes down to it and they have a guy that's a better receiver that is an average kick returner and they have him that's a great kick returner, they're going to keep the receiver because he's going to end up making more of an impact on your team than just a straight returner.
100%. And there's a difference between what Devin Hester added, one of the greatest kick returners of all time, and what Simba Webster has showed so far. I did get a nice little chuckle out of Greg Papa calling him Mufasa. However, Mufasa did die in that movie, so bad analogy there, Mr. Papa. Bad analogy indeed. I love you guys. Go Niners from Tommy Huxley.
Thanks,
with the
Tommy.
$2
Appreciate
super chat.
it.
We love you too, Tommy. Thank you so much. We love the whole Cutback crew, all of you. We really, really, really appreciate all the support that you guys have been showing and giving this channel. All of you. We talk back like Shanahan to Grant Cohn with a 49ers cutback from Ernest.
I like that.
That is a wonderful, wonderful little comment there. I like that a lot. Vincent Johnston here. I wonder if Trey's small hands are the reason he doesn't throw a clean spiral downfield.
What's crazy is the clean spirals are there in camp.
They are.
100%. I think actually what happens when you get into those situations, I don't know how much people know about quarterbacking. If you squeeze the ball too tight, when you're about to throw, the ball will flutter a little bit. So he had the nerves and the anxiety of playing. He was hyped. I'll bet you he was just squeezing the ball a little too hard, and then so that you didn't get that perfect spiral that you want. It'll come though.
I'm not too worried about that. I'm not that worried about it at all. Luke Luna with the $5 super chat. Thanks, guys, for your continued efforts to keep this channel of the highest football standards. Support everybody if you agree. Heart, thumbs up. #TCC.
Thanks so much, Luke. We appreciate it.
We love that, man. We appreciate it. And that's the goal here. The focus is football. And not just, overreactions to football. You can get that on a lot of channels and a lot of places where you just overreact consistently to football. But a focus on football, the game, the ins and outs, the X's and O's, bringing it to you from a little bit more of a coaching perspective where the both of us have tried to coach and have held ourselves as coaches to high standards. No matter, what level of football we're coaching at or sport we're coaching at, just really trying to get an emphasis on breaking down and diving into the game. That's what we're bringing you. Cutback Crew has loved it so far. We're going to continue doing that for you. That's never going to change here on this channel.
Yeah, and more great comments coming through. Thanks, 49ers George 365, Cutback Baby. Emmanuel Kane said, "You guys have a great show. Go Niners." We appreciate that. All the people that we've started seeing recently that have joined the crew. Welcome. You're free to leave whatever comments you would like. That are football related. That are they don't have to be positive or negative, just as long as they're about the 49ers and you leave out personal attacks, it's always great. And I love the chat when it gets rolling.
Absolutely.
Chat is great, and they ask good questions, and when we get those questions, it's fantastic because then we get to add another element and aspect to our show where we can get into questions that people want to hear, and we want to make sure that we all have that conversation.
Matt Calloway with the $4.99 super chat. You guys are dope. Looking forward to these breakdowns throughout the season. If Matt Calloway is enjoying these breakdowns right here, man, wait till the other stuff that is still to come on this channel that you got coming your way. Matt, you're not going to know what to do with yourself. There's going to be so much great content flowing out of this channel. You may never leave, and you know what? That's okay because we love y'all and we want y'all to be here 24/7, 365. We know you guys got other stuff going on, but we're going to try and bring you more and more and more content, diversify the content, get more things going. You're not going to want to miss any of the great stuff that we got coming out because we got a lot of great stuff coming your way.
We do, and I think that this is an exciting time for 49ers fans, but breaking down preseason and then ultimately breaking down these games that we're going to get into in the regular season is a little bit different. When we get into the regular season, the breakdowns take even a bigger turn where we get even farther into it. That's exciting. I can't wait for that. I mean, we're on the build right now to Detroit, which is crazy to think that we're only a little bit of time away, and we're going to get into this. We have a couple more weeks of preseason where we can kind of settle into all these players, determine who's going to actually make this 53-man roster, because I think that's a big question moving forward. Tuesday, you have cuts where they're going to make their first cuts, and this roster is going to take a little bit of a different turn and change. And then ultimately working, even farther than that after the Chargers week where cuts start getting deeper and deeper.
Correct. It's going to be very, very interesting indeed. And there's still a lot of positive things to go over and a lot of things to talk about with this team. And there's still a lot of film to break down. I'm hoping that they're going to put out all 22 film at some point. You can hold our breaths for it. But if we don't get it, it is what it is. And you just go with the stuff that you have in the condensed film you have. The nice part about the condensed film, get through it really quickly, it's not the end of the world.
You do, 100%.
Vincent Johnson, I love that Trey Lance ran all the way down the field to celebrate with his wide receiver. I loved that, and I loved the sideline reaction. I loved Jimmy on the sideline. Yeah. Jimmy seemed like the most excited person on the sideline. Those type of things make me lean towards this being a plan, the Shanahan plan, right? That this is what's going to be happening with this group.
Yeah.
You have two guys working together in order to accomplish something great with this team. Coach Timo just now with the $5 super chat. Hey, I'll never leave. I'm addicted. We're addicted too. We're addicted to this channel. We're addicted to pumping out this content.
And addicted to comments from people like Coach Timo that have interesting, great takes and great questions. We love it.
Agreed. And then David Campbell with the $4.99 super chat. Jonas Griffith's man bun was on point. It was. It
100% was. He looks like Junior Fred Warner out there. He's got that man bun going on, but he's huge. He's really big for a linebacker. So yeah, that's a solid point. I like that.
Niner Joe Empire. Bet you guys thought Chosen Rosen was going to ball after that first throw. My bold almost came true. Niner Joe Empire. It did almost come true. After that first throw, Ant and I looked at each other and said, just wait.
Yeah.
Just wait. It's Rosen. Josh Rosen has done this 1,000 times, and it didn't take very long for Josh Rosen to Josh Rosen.
Yeah, Josh Rosen was going to do Josh Rosen things.
Agreed.
He has moments where he looks spectacular. This is camp. Looks spectacular on one play. 60 yards down the field in the perfect spot.
Beautiful thrown ball.
Oh my gosh, this guy's a top 10 talent. And then he goes through the next plays where he looks just awful. He looks like, Jim Drunkenmiller out there. It is so bad. So that's the thing is it's Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, or vice versa, whatever this is. It's just not good.
It's not good.
The inconsistencies are bad.
And he has, dude, I had to. You can ask Megan. I was watching the presser this morning of the other people outside of Shanahan, and it got to Josh Rosen presser, and Josh started talking, and I looked at her. I was like, I can't do it. This guy I can't do it. He's got no personality. Nothing exudes confidence out of this guy. I think he's excited to be in San Francisco, but I just don't know how much longer that's going to honestly be for.
If Sudfeld comes in and plays the way that he has been playing in practice against the Chargers, everyone will see that Sudfeld is more consistent and a better quarterback than Josh Rosen. If he doesn't, then there might be more questions. But Rosen didn't. If Sudfeld doesn't have a bad performance, Kyle Shanahan might think about only doing two quarterbacks. Because Josh Rosen did nothing to make you think that he should be on this 53-man roster. Even nothing to make you think he should be on the practice squad.
Accurate.
Because he has not developed, and he's been with them now since last season, so a full offseason with the 49ers. He understands this offense. He understands these reads. He's a veteran quarterback that should be able to execute at a high level. The inconsistencies are just there. So Yeah, I mean, that's what we expected from Rosen, especially after what we saw at practice.
Agreed 100%. 49ers George here. I think Trey earned reps with the ones. They're going to come. It's just not going to. I think you may see some this week for the first time.
You could.
I think that would be a good time to test it because you can test it in practice with no cameras around, right? Where only your film and whatever you're going to show the Chargers. But I don't expect it to be heavy. It's going to be a progression. They're going to slowly, as you get closer to week 1, start to give him reps because that's when you're going to start to actually implement these situations where the Shanahan plan becomes a reality and you're getting Trey out there in certain situations. And again, as the season progresses and he gets more comfortable, shows he can execute, you're going to give him more chances and more times. He definitely went out and showed you some of the positive things that you needed to see out of Trey. He's definitely going to start getting those reps. Going to take time, though.
Yeah, it is. You just got to let this guy, kind of develop. Let the game plan develop. He played with a little bit of the ones, the offensive line. I think that's probably the most important because he plays with these guys all the time in practice, the receivers. He works with them all the time. So he's going to develop. This plan is going to take effect. These guys are going to work together. Eventually, he's going to be out there with the ones. I think I am definitely on board with you, Alex, that I believe that we're going to see both these quarterbacks operating with the ones. I don't know if that'll happen at the dress rehearsal against the Raiders. If ultimately we'll start to see it then, I think Kyle will still, kind of leave it close to the vest. I wouldn't be shocked if you don't see Jimmy Garoppolo play all but one series of the first half against the Raiders, and maybe Trey comes in for one with that first team offense, and then eventually works with the twos again. But they'll give him every opportunity. If they think for any reason that this guy can ultimately play more snaps than they were planning, they're going to give him more time with the first team because there is absolutely no one, besides probably Jimmy Garoppolo, that doesn't want Trey Lance to get more and more snaps with the first team.
True. I mean, I know I do because the more Trey's playing, that means the closer he is to being ready to take over, and the closer he is ready to take over, the closer we get to this offense potentially realizing its full potential. But I want it to get there naturally. I don't want it to be forced upon this kid. I don't want this kid to have to go out there and feel the weight of the world on his shoulders that he has to carry it all while still trying to learn and understand this game at this level, adapt to getting calls in from a headset, adapt to crowd noise, adapt to situationals, because those are a lot of things that he wasn't exposed to at college. He wasn't exposed to the big crowd sizes and the noise. He wasn't exposed to helmets in the headset because shockingly and surprisingly, Ant, they didn't have them in college. Yeah. At North Dakota State. It definitely wasn't, an entire college football thing. It was definitely just at North Dakota State that Trey Lance didn't have an earpiece in the headset of his helmet.
Yeah, the headsets are not very common. There are only a couple places I've heard of them. The NFL does it very extensively, and a local youth football team who used to do it as well.
That's true.
Which is amazing because you can't do it in high school, you can't do it in college. So why do you have the youth football team doing it? I don't know.
Also, why do you need to give them the team?
I don't know. It is nuts to me, but
great.
I think that it's funny that Greg Papa brought that up. Oh, he's not used to that. Yeah, no one is. Greg Papa. They're I'm pretty sure that
it's kind of a new thing for people at this level.
Every rookie quarterback was probably going to struggle with that, but it's good. It's good to see Trey grow, and Trey's going to grow through this preseason, and everyone's going to see how quick of a learner he is, and it's exciting. And I think people are going to see Jimmy Garoppolo play well as well because we've seen him at camp look good. And I think we have two quarterbacks that we can be happy with. And we have two quarterbacks we know we can win football games with, which is ultimately what you want, just in case one of them goes down, unfortunately. You don't want that to happen, but if it does, the 49ers have prepared themselves to make sure that they can still compete.
Agreed. I just want to see that aspect. I want to see the competition. I want to see this team being competitive and being a team that's going in the right direction and continuing to make those strides in the right direction because they have the talent to. They have all the pieces too. And we're definitely just need to make sure that we get every player and every quarterback that we got on this roster in a position to help this team move in the right direction. Because if they're moving in the right direction, then it doesn't really matter if it's Trey or Jimmy or a combination of both of them helping this offense move forward. Yeah. As long as we're moving forward, we'll be fine. And if we can do it together, combined, the two of them, that's less pressure on Trey. That's more time for Trey to develop and get there. And again, it now puts you in situations where if you're Kyle Shanahan, you have access to the full playbook because some of Trey's strengths are Jimmy's weaknesses and some of Jimmy's strengths are Trey's weaknesses. Yeah,
and one area that I want people to be able to see Trey Lance, hopefully over these next two games, is operate in the red zone. That is someplace that he excels. The fact that he can run with the football puts a lot of stress on that defense and allows him to get opportunities to make plays in that confined area. And when you get in that confined area, it's a little bit different. They lock down the receivers more. but he's excelled in that area. So that's something I would like to see either against the Chargers or the Raiders. Just didn't work out this time because, he wanted to go 80 yards instead of, working his way down the field. But we'll take it. And then when we get to those situations, I think that also we'll see a little glimpse into what the Shanahan plan is because there's going to be opportunities for Trey Lance to operate in the red zone all season long.
It's very true. There's going to be plenty of time and plenty of opportunities for this man to operate in the red zone, short yardage, and even just, second and longs and things of that nature.
Jay Ellie is on it.
Send Papa back to the Raiders. You're not wrong, Jay Ellie. You're not wrong. That's very accurate indeed. That's why you got the little accurates there from the 49ers cutback. We hope you enjoyed this preseason recap show. Let us know what you thought about it down below in the comments section, whether you're here in the live chat, whether you're watching the replay after the fact. We love hearing from the Cutback crew, whether you're super chatting, whether you're commenting during live chats, commenting after the fact, sharing the video with the rest of the faithful. We love all of the interaction that's been on this channel, all the positivity, all the support has been glorious. It's been fantastic. Make sure you're subscribed if you haven't already. Hit that notification bell because you don't want to miss any great content that is coming out on this channel. Any of the things that we're going to cover. We're getting closer and closer to season. More opportunities, more things coming soon your way. Fantasy Football League also coming soon your way. Madden Football League. You don't want to miss any of that great stuff. You want to be a part of that. More ways to engage with the Cutback crew. More ways to engage with us, specifically with me in fantasy football because Ant won't be doing it, but that's A-okay. You can have a lot of fun with me. We can overreact. We can talk football. We can talk a little bit about more than just 49ers as well, but we can also try and predict which guys from the 49ers each and every week are going to have big weeks, which is going to be difficult.
Yeah, I will leave fantasy to you. I'm not about that fantasy life. I'm about, dealing in X's and O's. So while you're doing that, I'll go ahead and watch some more game film because that's what I enjoy doing. But yeah, Alex will be handling the fantasy football. He'll be doing a good job because he knows a lot about it. He's been doing it for a long time. That is not my wheelhouse. That's not what I like to do because I have a real problem having to root for someone that's not on my football team.
Hey, I got a strategy that I'll teach the whole Cutback crew.
Yeah, you can invoke that strategy. I invoke my own strategy, which is a huge stiff arm to fantasy football. But yeah, it's going to be exciting. This is going to be an exciting season. We're going to have a lot to talk about, and we're going to have a lot of cool conversations that are going to be coming up eventually here. So make sure everyone's tuned into the 49ers Cutback channel. It's going to be fun. It's really about to take on a life of its own, and it's going to be exciting.
It's going to be very exciting. Don't forget to go to the 49ers Cutback shop. Get yourself some sweet Cutback merch, whether it's this here, the 49ers Cutback Crew t-shirt that Ant's got on there. Also, don't forget, Monica brought the Discord. The Discord will be coming out and releasing the same time as a few other things. We're going to release it all at once. It should be coming up here shortly. It's not going to take much longer for everything to be kind of up and running, ready to go. So just stay tuned. A little bit of patience. We'll get there. You're going to have a bunch of content thrown at you all at once, which is wonderful. We love to see that. We were excited to put all of that out for all of you because, again, the more content your way, the more ways for you to engage, interact, the more informed you're going to be, and differing viewpoints, which we absolutely love on this channel.
Yep, differing viewpoints are encouraged, accepted, because I think that is how you get to see football in different light. If somebody doesn't bring up a different way to see it, then how could you ever, change the way you think or overall, grow your opinion? I mean, that's why I went to so many football clinics, and that's why I listened to so many coaches. Whether that I was going to ultimately do what that coach said, I wanted to learn how he approached the game and how he saw things and how he ran offense, because it would ultimately make me a better coach. Whether I use his things or not, that didn't matter. So looking at different viewpoints is the whole point of being a 49ers fan, because sometimes you don't see it, right? You've gotten used to seeing it one way your whole life, and now you get to see it from a different viewpoint. So it's always good to hear that. It's always good to have a great conversation and discourse. And I'm looking forward to the season where we can continue to do this because we have a lot of great people in our chats and that are listeners that are putting good questions and good comments. And the conversation has been outstanding, even better than before last year. So it's just getting better and better. So that's a big kudos, to the Cutback crew for coming through with all these great comments and questions because we couldn't do without you.
No, we really couldn't. And you guys have produced a lot of great other content and great conversations and great things for us to talk about, whether it's live streams, whether it's after the fact recording episodes. You have done an incredible job of making this community as great as it's been. I'm looking forward to it continuing because I know the type of people that we have in here already, and the type of people with the thought process and the ideas and the way you're seeing the game and the way that you're breaking it down, and the differing points of view, breaking the game down but still coming to a different conclusion than us, it leads to a lot of great things. It's going to continue to do a lot of great things, and it's going to continue to grow this community, because the more people come in here and interact with all of you, the more informed they're going to be, the more they're going to enjoy talking 49ers football, and the more they're enjoying it, the better this environment and this situation is going to be with the Cutback Crew.
100%. I'm really looking forward to everything that's going to happen. I'm looking forward to tomorrow. There's going to be some exciting stuff that comes from the 49ers Cutback. So pay attention, and really, check it out when it gets scheduled. You guys will see it, but it's all a surprise right now. So just enjoy it, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So as things get rolling, and enjoy what's coming. Let us know what you think, and we'll just keep enjoying 49ers football and 49ers talk. Agreed.
It's definitely going to continue we're going to continue growing. We're going to continue expanding. This channel is going to get larger. It's going to get bigger. And look, I'm really excited for everything that this team has put on paper, everything that we still have to see going forward with this group, and what this team still has to put in and get comfortable doing heading into week 1 against the Lions. The good news is the Lions are the Lions. The Niners are going to have a chance, and Jared Goff is the quarterback, so the Goff man is going to be out there. The Niners have had success against him in the past. We're expecting and continuing that trend going into the future, going into week 1. Niners have some things they're going to clean up, and they're going to get those things cleaned up. And we're going to see a much different team in 2021 than the injury-riddled team we saw in 2020.
And this week is so pivotal against the Chargers. They're going to have these joint practices Thursday and Friday, the day off on Saturday, and then Sunday they're going to play the game. It's going to be exciting. We're going to get to hear a lot of great things that come out of it. And, we're gonna see how this ultimately helps the team improve going into the Chargers game, because we want them to reach their peak as they get to week 1 of the regular season. And it's all ascension right now. They're working to that. So we're getting close to that time where we're going to have dress rehearsal in week 3 against the Raiders. And I think we're excited for the process of what's going to happen in practice and ultimately how it builds. And then Detroit will be on the clock soon enough.
That's very accurate indeed. Tommy, save those Wild at Bolt prediction for the week 1 preview show, my guy. Don't give people the preview of Kittle's 200 yards in week 1. Wait, save it. Same thing with you, Vincent Johnston. Don't go Wild That's Bold yet. Save Wild That's Bold for the preview shows. Don't get those bold takes out there, because people are going to steal them by the time we get to the week 1 preview show.
It's true. I like it though.
I enjoy.
I like the boldness.
We're big fans of the boldness on here. We absolutely love it. Look, Cutback Crew, this was a lot of fun. This was a great stream this morning. We appreciate all of you tuning into the recap show. Still, not everything that you typically get from the recap show. We didn't get to go into position breakdowns, right? We didn't get to go over like some of the highlight plays and stats and things of that nature from players and from top performers. We didn't even get into the soft player of the week.
Oh, we didn't.
We didn't get to do that, and that's okay, because you got to save those things. We're more focused on, actually looking at players than maybe picking out a bad play that we saw. So Look, there's still tons of great content coming your way from our preview shows and our recap shows. So make sure you're a member of the Cutback Crew today by hitting that subscribe button and that notification bell. We'll see you all tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. for our traditional show. And who knows, maybe there'll be a surprise episode that comes out tomorrow at some time. But the only way you're going to know about it and know right away is if you're subscribed and notified, so that way you get that notification bell that goes, hey, by the way, the 49ers Cutback has a video coming out at a time that isn't 11 a.m. You got to make sure you're a part of it. Make sure you're here. You're not going to want to miss anything coming on with this channel. But Ant, this is a great recap show. It was a great first week of the preseason, and I'm looking forward to everything else that's still to come.
Yep, great. I'm looking forward to what's going to happen in the future. It's going to be a lot of fun for the 49ers building to the next game. We're going to be getting into that, and it's going to be exciting. So pay attention to what content is coming out. Check it out, and then we'll have some great conversations leading up to the Chargers game and more great content then.
Absolutely, tons of great content. But until next time, Cutback Crew and 49ers fans, you stay safe.
And remember, the right way
is always the 49ers way.